right, so next up we have Jericho Brown. He will be coming up on stage to share some of his poetry. Jericho Brown is the recipient of a Winning Writers Award and fellowships from the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Study at Harvard University and the National Endowment for the Arts. His poems have appeared in the New Republic, the New Yorker, and the Best American Poetry. His book, Please, New Issues 2008, won the American Book Award, and his second book, which is available on the book table back there, The New Testament, Copper Canyon Press 2014, won the Anisfield Wolf Book Award and was named one of the best books of the year by Library Journal, Cold Front, and the Academy of American Poets. He's an associate professor in English and creative writing at Emory University in Atlanta. Welcome, Jericho.
I'm not sure.
That's normal people, right?
It's true. Hi. All right, maybe. What did she say? It's like. Thank you so much for the introduction, M. Big thanks to M and to everyone who had anything to do with putting this festival together. I think sometimes we take for granted that there's always someone who has done something to make a way for us to be able to do the things that we do. Before we came into this room, there was someone who took the trash out and swept the floors. And we might not ever meet that someone after we leave here, maybe very late at night. There will be someone to clean up the mess that we leave behind. So I am very grateful for the opportunity to be here and to share this stage with such wonderful poets. And I hope we can all feel that gratitude for M and for everyone who has worked so hard to put the Tucson Poetry Festival together. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm going to read 9 poems. They're short poems. And the poems, if I have to, I'll introduce a poem, give it background, or set it up with some context. If not, I'll just read on to the next poem. This first poem that I'm reading was written in response to the deaths, the circumstances surrounding the deaths of people like Jesus Huerta in North Carolina, and Victor White III in Louisiana, and Sandra Bland in Texas. Their names are a part of a much longer list of names of people who have supposedly committed suicide while in police custody, and committed suicide in very strange ways. For instance, Victor White III managed somehow to shoot himself in the back in spite of having already been patted down and handcuffed and sitting in the back of a police cruiser. And Jesus Huerta also somehow managed, on the way to getting booked from the police, between the police car and getting booked, to shoot himself in the head in spite of the fact that he was handcuffed behind the back. And many of us are familiar with Sandra Bland's very strange death. Bullet points. I will not shoot myself in the head, and I will not shoot myself in the back, and I will not hang myself with a trash bag. And if I do, I promise you, I will not do it in a police car while handcuffed, or in the jail cell of a town I only know the name of because I have to drive through it to get home. Yes, I may be at risk, but I promise you, I trust the maggots and the ants and the roaches who live beneath the floorboards of my house to do what they must to any carcass more than I trust an officer of the law of the land to shut my eyes like a man of God might, or to cover me with a sheet so clean my mother could have used it to tuck me in. When I kill me, I will kill me the same way most Americans do. I promise you, cigarette smoke or a piece of meat on which I choke, or so broke I freeze in one of these winters we keep calling worst. I promise that if you hear of me dead anywhere near a cop, then that cop killed me. He took me from us and left my body, which is, no matter what we've been taught, greater than the settlement a city can pay a mother to stop crying, and more beautiful than the brand new shiny bullet fished from the folds of my brain. So if there's anyone who's here from the South, I grew up in Louisiana, and after there, I lived in East Texas. I spent some time in Southern California and San Diego, and then about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I moved back to the South again, where I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And to this very day, and I really do think this is an anomaly of the South, to this very day, but definitely when I was young and growing up, there were cuss words that were only cuss words in the South. For instance, if you were a very young person, you could not say the word lie in front of your parents. Does anybody know anything about this? Do y'all know anything? You do know about you. So there is someone here who can vouch for me that in truth, just like saying like shit or fuck and you like get slapped across the face, if you were to say lie, that same thing would happen to you. So instead of saying lie, you had to say story. So you would say, oh, mama, no, that's not what happened. She telling a story. Do y'all understand what I mean? So you sort of have to know that to follow along with this next poem. Second language. You come with a little black string tied around your tongue, knotted to remind where you come from and why you left behind photographs of people whose names need no pronouncing. How do you say God now that the night rises sooner? How dare you wake to work before any alarm? I am the man asking, the great-grandson made so by the dead tenant farmers promised a plot of land to hew. They thought they could own the dirt they were bound to. In that part of the country, a knot is something you get after getting knocked down, and story means lie. In your part of the country, class means school. This room where we practice words like rope in our hope to undo your tongue so you can tell a lie or break a promise or grow like a story. So in some way or another, it always seems to me that all of my poems can come out of my childhood, even if they're not directly about my childhood. When I was a kid, I was in love with riddles, and I loved figuring riddles out. And so when I became a poet and I really purposed my heart to poetry, I spent a lot of time trying to write riddles that would be interesting and fun for a reader to experience. And they all failed as poems, but seemed really interesting riddles. So I kept trying to write a riddle that would work as a riddle and as a poem. And I figured out that the way to do that is to write the riddle without knowing the answer to the question. So maybe you'll be able to figure out what the answer is, because I'm not sure. Riddle. We do not recognize the body of Emmett Till. We do not know the boy's name, nor the sound of his mother wailing. We have never heard a mother wailing. We do not know the history of ourselves in this nation. We do not know the history of ourselves in this nation because we do not have to know what we believe we own. We believe we own your bodies, but have no use for your tears. We destroy the body that refuses use. We use maps we did not draw. We see a sea, so cross it. We see a moon, so land there. We love land so long as we can take it. Shh, we can't take that sound. What is a mother wailing? We do not recognize music until we can sell it. We sell but cannot be bought. We buy silence. Let us help you. How much does it cost to hold your breath underwater? Wait. What are we? What on earth are we? This is a very short part of a much longer poem, a poem called The Interrogation, 7-part poem. This is part 3, Street Directions. Will black men still love me if white ones stop wanting me dead? Will white men stop wanting me dead? Will men like me stop killing men like you? Which made us brothers? That you shielded my body with yours, or that you found me here, dying on the pavement and held my empty hand? So I've lately been writing about the advent of Western civilization, which is to say I've been writing about rape and sexual violence. You can't really do that unless you write about Greek myth. As all of you know, the myth of Ganymede explains how the cupbearer to the gods became immortal. Zeus, king of the gods, turns himself into a bird, a great bird, and he goes and swoops up a very beautiful boy because the boy is a beautiful boy, and he brings him back to Olympus. But there's another version to that myth, which I think I explain in this poem. Ganymede. A man trades his son for horses. That's the version I prefer. I like the safety of it. No one at fault, everyone rewarded. God gets the boy. The boy becomes immortal. His father rides until grief sounds as good as the gallop of an animal born to carry those who patrol and protect our inherited kingdom. When we look at myth this way, nobody bothers saying rape. I mean, don't you want God to want you? Don't you dream of someone with wings taking you up? And when the master comes for our children, he smells like the men who own stables in heaven. That far terrain between promise and apology. No one has to convince us. The people of my country believe we can't be hurt if we can be bought. TC told me this was a queer reading. Host. We want pictures of everything below your waist. And we want pictures of your waist. We can't talk right now but we will text you into coitus. All thumbs, all bi-coastal and discreet and masculine and muscular. No whites, everybody atop. We got a career to think about. No face, we got kids to remember. No one over 29, no one under 30. Our exes hurt us into hurting them. Disease-free, no drugs. We like to get high with the right person. You got a girl? Bring your boy. We visiting, room at the W. Names D, names J. We DJ, we Trey, we Troy, we Q. We not sending a face. Where should we go tonight? You coming through? Please know what a gym looks like. Not much time. No strings. No place. No face. Be clean. We haven't met anyone here yet. Why is it so hard to make friends? No games. You still coming through? Latinos only. Blacks will do. We can take one right now. Text it to you. Be there next week. Be there in June. We not a phone person. We can host, but we won't meet without a recent pic and a real name and the sound of your deepest voice. I'll just read it. Well, I mean, you never know where your poems are going to come from. This poem, I think in some subconscious way, had to do with that moment right after Barack Obama became president of the United States. And he made a comment about how it was what he called stupid for a police officer to arrest the Harvard professor, Henry Louis Gates, who was trying to get into his house in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but had lost his keys. I don't know if y'all remember, they all got together and had a beer at their White House, and it was like really a waste of my time. Like there were real things happening. Anyway, Homeland. I knew I had jet lag because no one would make love to me. All the men thought me a vampire. All the women were women. In America that year, black people kept dreaming that the president got shot. Then the president got shot, breaking into the White House. He claimed to have lost his keys. What's the proper name for a man caught stealing into his own home? I asked a few passengers. They replied, Jigger. After that, I took the red eye. I took to a sigh deep as the end of a day in the dark fields below us. Some slept, but nobody named security ever believes me. Confiscated my Atripla, my Celexa, my cortisone, my Klonopin, my Flexeril, my Zyrtec, my Nazarel, my Percocet, my Ambien. Nobody in this nation feels safe. And I'm still a reason why every day something gets thrown away on account of long history, or hair, or fingernails, or yes, of course, my fangs. The myth of Persephone explains seasons to us by way of giving us the story of a young immortal who is kidnapped by her uncle, and that kidnap is then negotiated between her uncle, her mother, and her father, so that she can spend some time on earth and some time in hell. At the end of hell, but what if I love him? The one they call bad, the one they call black. What if I love him? The one with a gap in his teeth only I get to see? What if I risk taking the head of death here in the dark, far and deep, where burrowing beasts build house after filthy house, and nobody witnesses my underworld gangster play kidnap, play mama's baby turned queen? And if I scream pastel, he swears he's sorry, unties my feet. What if that's worth a few bruises, better than the light called spring? And I love it, every drop of God weeping over me. And the only thing that I can say about this last poem is that, maybe y'all took the class. I really do. I love poetry so much, and I really believe in it as a force, as a spiritual energy. But the only thing that I love more than poetry, the only thing I can think of that I love more than poetry is cuddling. Stand. Peace on this planet, or guns glowing hot. We lay there together as if we were getting something done. It felt like planting a garden, or planning a meal for a people who still need feeding. All that touching, or barely touching, not saying much, not adding anything. The cushion of it, the skin, and occasional sigh, all seemed like work worth mastering. I'm sure somebody died while we made love. Somebody killed somebody black. I thought then of holding you as a political act. I may as well have held myself. We didn't stand for one thought, didn't do a damn thing. And though you left me, I'm glad we didn't. Thank y'all so much.